Hi everybody, and welcome back to Let's Play Shadowrun Hong Kong. So, we're back at the Mahjong Parlor because we are supposed to talk with Kylie Cheng about something. Let's see what this is all about. As you walk through the Mahjong Parlor, you see your crew waiting for you, clearly uncomfortable to be so close to the Triad boss. Then you see why. Kylie Cheng's cheeks are flushed and glowing. She's already hit the bottle pretty hard. Ah, Hulk, you're here. Excellent. Yes, Hulk, good to see you. They both have expressions that say they'd rather be anywhere else. Nice to see you all. Should we grab a table for some match? Let's get to it, shall we? You said you had a lead. I did, and I do. Kylie Cheng takes out her PDA and gently places it on the table in front of her. The wiretap we placed on the police force has burned fruit. Her mouth breaks into a wolfish grin as her eyes take on a feral gleam. She appears fueled by alcohol and vengeance, a hungry beast on the hunt. My people have delivered a snippet of a recorded video call between the plastic-faced man and Chief Inspector Crate of the Special Duties Unit. Whoa. This should be good. Should we take a seat? Unfortunately, it's only a snippet. There were some technical difficulties with the tab. She glances at Bao. The person responsible has been sacked. Yeah, I know their methods. I know just how exactly that person has been sacked. Cheng reaches out a lacquered fingernail, hands for the button she's looking for, and stabs it in victory. There's a loud crackling noise at the beginning of the recording, followed by a squelching squeal that makes Gobbet cover her ears in pain. When the video recording begins, the man's voice sounds far away, as if he's talking through a thick pane of glass. The woman's voice is louder, closer. Say that again, there's something wrong with this line. I said my client isn't interested in hearing more excuses, Inspector. This is what I thought you said. I'm not making excuses, mister. I have a department to run. Not for much longer, if those two Westerners aren't found. They're linked to this Raymond Black somehow, and my client wants them out of circulation immediately. The two runners are his accomplices too. The little orc and the dwarf with the cyberdeck. Gobbet looks at Isabel, wide-eyed, and swallows hard. Isabel winks back reassuringly. I'm aware, Inspector. Thank you. We don't know how much any of them know, and my client is adamant that the risk be mitigated immediately. I've already made this the SDU's highest priority. If Josephine wants more resources on it, I'm going to need allocations from elsewhere in the department. That is a problem that can be easily dealt with. My client wants this over now. No more excuses, no more fuck-ups, no more cabs floating in the river. Kylie Cheng smiles at that and pours herself a shot. Tell her we're redoubling our efforts. Very good. Dead or alive, you bring them to me. My client requires my personal verification that the threat has been eliminated. Hang on, this line is getting worse. There's a sharp crackle, and the recording ends. Kylie Cheng picks up her PDA and puts it away with a smile. She unscrews the cap on her bottle and pours herself a shot with a flourish. That's the guy we saw in the surveillance footage. The one who killed Raymond Black. That plastic face looks a lot cooler close up. I think he's kind of pretty. That video doesn't tell us much. I mean, we already know there's an APB on us. All we're sure of now is that the man with the plastic face is definitely working for someone else, this Josephine. Is that all we have, Auntie? A first name? It's not just a first name, Gobbet dear. It's the first name. Josephine Sang. She's the one pulling the strings. Kindly downs her shot and slams the glass upside down on her table. That disease-riddled dogfucker. I should have known it was her from the beginning. She drums her fingers on the table in front of her. And she had nerve to call down the hit on my runners on the Nightjar? Oh, that scabrous fossil is going to pay. So, friend of yours? Cheng makes a wet hacking noise in the back of her throat and spits on the floor. She's the CEO of Sang Mechanical Services and a member of the Hong Kong Executive Council. Josephine dog-fucking Sang. CEO, huh? What do you know about her? What is Sang Mechanical Services? Josephine's baby. It was a B-rated corporation before she married into the Sang family, but after she fought for and won the contract to rebuild the Kowloon-walled city, their fortunes rose high. They began a rise to power that eventually landed Josephine on the executive council. Wait, so there's a connection between Josephine Sang and the walled city? Yes, the same place Raymond Black hired my runners to take him. I've already connected the dots. I don't know what it means, but it clearly means something. Okay. So, what do you think the connection is between Josephine Sang and this plastic-faced man? I don't know yet, but I will. He called her his client. That may be some sort of lead we can follow. Cheng nods at Wu. Her glance lingers at his biceps a moment before continuing. Right now, all we know is that he is her instrument. The one who killed Raymond Black. Raymond's not dead. Yes, you might have mentioned that before, Ganshaw. She smiles at him reapprovingly. Regardless, the plastic-faced man is still our best lead for figuring out what's going on. Okay, so let's cut to the chase. What's our next step? There's nothing we can do to touch Josephine Sang, as much as I hate to admit it. But the plastic-faced man is a different story. He's a third-party operative who's been careless, and he'll live to regret it. For a while. If Sang thinks she can take out 2 of my runners and get away with it, I'm going to have to explain things to her. She pulls out a thin black cigar and runs it beneath her nose. We're going to find the plastic-faced man and we are going to hurt him. We'll hurt him until we know everything he does. And then we will use that to strike back at Josephine Sang. You will have your vengeance and I will have my own satisfaction. She turns away and picks up the bottle. Now get out. I have work to do. Alright, things are getting interesting. So at least now we know who's pulling the strings. And I suppose it's time to pick up the next job? I think so. We already talked with these people. Well, we can see if there are any new dialogues. So we'll have a chat with Duncan and some other people. Maybe we can talk about the last run? I'm guessing we can. Okay, you enter to find Wu stalking the floor silently, one hand held rigidly near his hip, the other flexing and unflexing again and again. When he notices you, he nods once and then goes back to his caged panther routine. You're gonna wear a hole in the floor that way. Need something? Yeah, a drink. Looks like you could use one too. I hear Club 88 has 2 for 1s between 4 and 6 o'clock, but you'll have to drink them both. I don't put drugs or alcohol into my body. What an amazing specimen you are. So pure, so manly. Drop it. We both know what can happen when I drink. I don't need my judgment impaired like that anymore. Been thinking about Josephine Sang, what she did to our family, what she did to Carter. His pace increases a bit, and his tasks jut forward slightly. Josephine Sang. Goddamn Josephine Sang. And? Don't fixate on her, Wu. Don't try to lecture me, Liang, and this isn't me being fixated, I'm focused. You heard kindly, Cheng, this woman is ruthless, and we have our own evidence of that, don't we? She hurt us, hurt me. Now the old Duncan is coming out to play. Wu's eyes smolder. Here's what we do. We walk into Sang headquarters and ask for the boss. When she comes down, we grab her, take her somewhere quiet, and ask her why she had Carter and those runners killed. Find out what happened to Raymond, whether he's alive or dead. What happens next is up to her. Yeah, I don't think it will be as easy as that, bro. Kidnap a member of the Hong Kong Executive Council while there's an APB out on us. Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. Not. It's bold. They'll never see it coming. This is the way to go. My way. Yeah, I don't think so. Now, where have I heard that before? What? My way? That's right. There's one way this is gonna go. He catches himself, understanding appears in his eyes. Oh crap, that's what Ray used to say. Raymond Black, our benevolent dictator, no questioning his rules, no falling short of his expectations. It was his way or the wrong way. Or you'd get the full-on Raymond treatment. I didn't care to be on the receiving end of that. And I was more than once, that's for sure. You remember what happened a few years after we moved out of the squad into this house. Into his house. The thing with Double Trey and Lockjaw, when he accused us of relapsing back into our old ways. Man, that was when Ray's authority finally got tested. When I finally stood up to him. Yep. The way you handled that was the part of the reason I eventually left. He just wouldn't listen. I thought that might have been part of it. But to be fair, I wasn't listening either. That was our pattern, wasn't it? I wouldn't listen, he wouldn't listen. Then we butted heads. Rinse and repeat. Once every few weeks. He smiles, but is filled with regret. But that time was the worst. His face settles into an expression of resignation. Okay, Mr. Chu. We don't need to do things my way. We need for us to butt heads. He stretches. You can hear his joints crack. And on that note, I'm gonna have to ask you to clear out. It's been a long day. Alright? You think this is bad? Try prison. It's a fair point. You know what? I'd rather not. I've put enough people away to know what's it like on the inside. Anyway, have a good night, Liang. I'll catch you tomorrow. Okay then. So let's talk with Gobet and Isabella maybe? We can talk about the run. With Isabel. Or something. Isabel half turns away from the octopus's main display. She looks up at you, blinking. The memory stick that you acquired from Rhombus has already been slotted into one of the computer's many expansion ports. The cherry red plastic that sheathes the stick looks sleek and wet in the light. You did good back there. The run went well. We got the stick. The key to my old memories. All I have to do now is slot it. You haven't unlocked your old memories yet. I mean, I can. It would be as simple as plugging myself in and tapping a key. My old memories are all mine if I want them. So, what are we waiting for? Go ahead and do it. But you're not sure that you do want them. She nods. That's about the shape of it. I'm feeling hesitant about this. It isn't easy, you know. Shifting organic memories into hardware storage, wiping the originals and locking them away for safekeeping. That's corporate level mind sculpting. Serious business. I'm assuming that there's a point to all this. So, the process was difficult. What does that matter? So I let Rhombus do this for me, all by himself, in a dirty corner of a derelict shopping mall. You know what that tells me? That I was desperate to get rid of whatever baggage is stored up there. Tell me, Isabel, would it have been easier for us, for you to have Rhombus just wipe the memories altogether? None of this changes the fact that we just risk our lives to get you that key. If what's locked away in there can help us, you need to bite the bullet and access it. That's a fair point. Yes, I know. But that doesn't mean I'm thrilled to be in this position. She sighs. Look, I'm going to do this. I have to, for the good of the team. I know that there could be something locked away in storage that could help us. That's why I suggested the run in the first place. I'm just dragging my feet a little because I'm afraid. Your memories are just memories. What's happening in the world city, whatever it is, that's what you should be afraid of. You're right. I know that. I knew it before we went to get the code. I just needed to talk through it with someone. Not Gobet. Someone who could take the situation seriously. I needed to talk it through. To talk through it with you. Glad to be of help? Without another word, she pulls a cable from a pile on the floor and slots it into her data jack. The other end disappears onto the octopus's many brains. Her fingers fly across the octopus's keyboard, rattling off a series of audible clicks. Finally, her thumb hovers over the execute key. Alright, Hulk, wish me luck. No, don't do it! The key depresses with an audible click. Isabel's eyes flutter as her cheeks flush with blood. Oh no. No, 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 no. She starts shaking her head from side to side, wringing her hands. A progress bar on the octopus's auxiliary monitor slowly climbs. Oh, fuck. Reach to pull the plug connecting Isabel to the octopus. What's happening? Are you okay? The progress bar climbs to 100. Isabel snatches the cable back out of her data jack and covers her eyes with her hands. She's shivering. She clutches her temples in the palms of her hands. Now I remember why I didn't want these anymore. Okay, bad stuff. Are you alright? No, I'm not alright. I'm the opposite of alright. She clutches at her skull, like she's afraid of going to crack. Like she's afraid it's going to crack open. There's a lot of bad stuff in here. Things that happened to friends of mine, to relatives. Things I watched happen. No. It's okay, Isabel, breathe. They're just memories, they can't hurt you. Yes, they can. Her voice is ragged, raw. These memories are crystal clear. It's like all of this shit happened yesterday. I can remember watching friends die, and I can see their screaming faces just as clearly as I did the day it happened. It's like watching a treat show, but it's my life, and it's real. Isabel, focus. Is there anything in there that can help us? She screws her eyes shut in concentration. Beads of sweat hang heavy on her brow. I think so, yes. I'll take time. It will take time for me to sit through all of this. She opens her eyes again, looks up at you. I'll hold on to these memories for as long as I can. Hopefully long enough to reveal something useful. No promises beyond that, though. I'm not asking for promises, just do your best. I always do. One thing that does jump out at me. Rombo's archived some software up here. She taps her temple with a fingernail. It's sitting on top of the memories, all wrapped up like a present. Don't know why he did it, but it looks like a combat package. Combat package, eh? She nods weakly. Some sort of basic attack modification. I'll have to study it to be sure, but I think that I can use it. Alright. There's some good news. Yeah, it's all very exciting. But for now, just give me some space, okay? Like I said, it's gonna take me some time. It's gonna take time for me to make sense of this stuff. Alright, I'll check back with you later. Good, go now. Well, that was that. Let's have a chat with Gobet then. Hey again, what's up? How do you like life here on the Kraken? It's fine, shaping up. Having new roomies is always nice. She smiles. How are you enjoying your cabin? Comfy enough for you? It isn't half bad, better than some of the places I squatted in back in the Barrens. I've heard stories about the Redmond Barrens. Sounds like a real winner of a place. Kowloon isn't any better, of course, but at least it's our little slice. But at least our little slice of home is safe. That's true. It's handy having a mob boss on our side. Yeah, handy. Auntie Cheng is definitely that. Don't know if I'd say she's on our side though. Yeah, I know what you mean. Hold on, I think we went through this dialogue before. Let's change the subject. I'd rather not think about the old woman right now. Okay? Are you certain that Sibilance and the rest of the Macau team are dead? Any thoughts about the last run? She shrugs. They weren't with me when I got evacuated with the rest of the moviegoers. I never saw them leave the building, and I haven't heard from them since. I guess it's possible that somebody made it, but I don't really run in those circles anymore. Odds are good that if anyone from the Macau team did survive, they'll have died off by now from sheer incompetence. Shadowrunning is an unforgiving business. You don't get to make too many mistakes. Did any of the stuff in that story actually happen, or did you just make it up for my benefit? Well, hey, it's a valid question. Seattle, I'm hurt. It all went down exactly like I said it did. She pauses. Well, except for a couple of embellishments here and there, but they make it a better story. Artistic license and all that. Gobet leans back and stifles a yawn. Madness and folly dart up her shoulder and lock their beady eyes on you. Hate to break it to you, kiddo, but I'm beat. It's been a long day. Lesson's over for now. We'll pick up the next time. Alright. Yeah, sounds good. I'll have your next lesson ready and waiting too. Scurry along now. Your mentor needs rest. Alright, so let's go and chat with Rakter and Gaichu perhaps, and then we can pick up our next job. Sounds good. We have quite a few jobs available too. So, Rakter, anything new? Welcome back, my friend. He leans against his desk. Is there something that I can do for you? Quiet night in the shop, huh? Yes, a quiet night. One best suited for contemplation, planning, and visions of the future. Care to pick up where we left off last time? If you like, I must confess, I have rather enjoyed our talks. It is good to have a sounding board to bounce ideas off of. Sounding board, huh? That's what I am to you. Agreed, our talks have been pleasant in an academic sense. Glad to hear that we're on the same page. He takes a drag on his cigarette. I must confess, I sometimes forget how to interact with others. I am, by nature, a solitary creature. It is good to have a kindred spirit, someone whom I can understand on the team. Koshei scuttles forward, mechanical pedipalps weaving. Its motions are as alien and charged with menace as they've ever been. Rakter glances at the machine, and he takes a step back. He claps his hands together and rubs them briskly. So, my friend, you had questions for me. Go ahead and ask them, please. I will answer whatever I can. You said that sometimes... You said that you sometimes forget... You said that you sometimes forget how to interact with other people. The last time we talked, you hinted at Koshei being special in some way. I want to hear the full story. Yes, I had figured that you might. Tell me, have you noticed anything unusual about Koshei in the time that we have worked together? It feels like he acts without you ordering him to. Like he's semi-autonomous, maybe. He nods. Yes, a good observation. Koshei could be described as semi-autonomous, though for a different reason than you might think. I'm waiting. The drone lowers itself, its killing legs splayed. Rakter looks to the drone, his head cocked, then he returns his gaze to you. His behavior is not drone-like because he is not a drone, at least not in the way that you would understand. He is a prosthesis. Prosthesis. What is he meant to replace? He isn't meant to replace anything, but he does contain a portion of me, as surely as your brain sits within your skull. We are, in a way, a singular entity in two bodies, metal and flesh made one. You're gonna have to explain that? Koshei acts as a home for my primal animal impulses, the idea, to use Freud's structural model of the psyche. The analytical portions of my mind, the ego and the superego, live on in me. They govern the idea and, by extension, Koshei's behavior. When we're on a run and I rig into Koshei, I do not command him to attack. Rather, I loosen my grip on his reins and I allow him to kill. He wants to hunt, to dominate, to bathe himself in blood. Reproduction would also be a drive if such a thing were possible. So, if you were killed, Koshei would what? Run amok? He chuckles. No, my friend, of course not. Koshei is not capable of storing any part of human mind. He simply doesn't have the capacity for it. If I were to die, he would fall dormant, the same as any other Jean. One day, perhaps, I will perfect him, and that part of me will live on if he in his chassis after the meat of my body dies. But for now, I am satisfied to live with him as a combined entity, man and a machine, joined through a form of neural parabiosis into a single being. A beautiful first step into a post-human future. I guess that if I have to know a mad scientist, I'm glad he's on my side. He snickers. Well said, my friend. And the feeling is mutual. If I must associate with violent criminals, I suppose that I am happy to call them friends. So, tell me why you think we're going to beat the essence limit. You hinted at this before, but I want to know. You said that you sometimes forget how to interact with other people. When I get lost in my own head, relating to others becomes difficult. It's nothing personal, just a quirk that I occasionally struggle to hide. I know the feeling. Sometimes I feel like a visitor from another planet. Like I can barely remember how to talk. You're doing a pretty good job of it. You've always been friendly with me. But when you come down here, we talk about things that are relevant to my interests. That makes it easier. In any case, thank you. Your kindness is appreciated. Okay. So tell me why you think we're going to beat the essence limit. I could do that. I have already shared quite a lot with you, and you haven't run off screaming. A good sign. But tell me, Hulk, are you certain that you want to know? Some secrets are less pleasant than others. You might prefer to leave the stone unturned. I want to know whatever you have to tell me, Ractor. I don't run from things because they are unpleasant. Very good. There are things that you don't know about me, my friend. Important things. What kinds of things? For one, I am not... How to put it? Whole. What do you mean by that? There was an accident when I was young. A shop accident. I barely survived. I am very heavily cybered, my friend. You wouldn't know it because I keep my enhancements hidden. Others have found them disturbing in the past. What kind of enhancements are we talking about? He uses the edge of his hand to trace a line across his hips. Everything below the mid-pelvis is replacement material. That's where I was sheared in half, you see. It's a miracle that I survived the experience. The blood loss alone would have killed me, should have killed me. But here I am, alive and well, greatly improved. In point of fact, you're saying that you're half machine? Hang on, you lost everything below the hips? Yes, a traumatic loss to be sure, but not so terrible as you might think. By every conceivable measure, I have been improved since the time of the accident. I am more than I was before, not less. You lost half your body. How could that not be terrible? He taps his temple with a finger. The doctors installed stimulus generators in my brain when they repaired me. With these, I can mimic the full range of sensations that the human body is capable of producing. Imagine the ramifications of such a thing. The things that you could do. The things that you could experience. The implications for operant conditioning alone are staggering. So yes, I have lost the entire lower half of my body. The full ramifications of such a loss are obvious. But in return, I have gained so much more. At will, I can goad my brain into producing whatever sensation I wish. I can poke at the wiring of my own consciousness, and I can reroute that wiring as I see fit. Alright, so you're half machine. What does that have to do with essence limit? He spreads his arms. Look at me, Hulk. I have a shred of essence left in me, and only barely that. But I suffered none of the ill effects associated with traumatic essence loss. That isn't possible. How can that be? A quirk of psychology, long viewed as an illness but never properly understood. What I now understand to be an evolutionary adaptation to a post-human future. We will conquer the essence limit given time. Natural selection will see to it, and I am the proof. These stimulus generators that you've been implanted with, how do they work? The technology is rather akin to SimSense, but considerably more powerful and flexible. Most SimSense experiences, those found in BTL chips for example, are structured around basic narratives that provide their users with context. But if you strip away the escapist fantasy, what you have left is an extremely powerful toolkit. I have never heard of anything like that on the market, not even in the shadows. I'm not surprised. The Russian technology, government funded and quite experimental. The project was cancelled shortly after I received my implants, something about graft and corruption on the administrative level. Yet another example of good science derailed by bad politics. Have you heard of anyone else who have gotten these implants? I know of a handful of other recipients. For what I've heard, these others were all driven quite mad. To be handed control of such an inner workings of one's own brain is a tremendous responsibility. Perhaps the others were less well equipped to handle it than I am. Be careful with those things, Ractor. The last thing I need is you wigging out on me. Or maybe they've driven you insane too. Ever consider that possibility? Of course, considered and rejected. Granted, I could be wrong about that. Perhaps I am mad. But then, what would that say about you and your willingness to associate with me? All of this stuff you've told me about yourself, it's a lot to digest. Yes, my friend, I'm sure that it is. Perhaps it would be best if you left. You have some processing to do, I think, and I would like the rest of the evening to myself. There is more to the story, of course, but nothing that can't wait until tomorrow. Alright then. So, last person is Gaichu. Let's see if there's anything new to talk about. The cabin is silent, aside from the occasional swish of air, as Gaichu steps through sword forms. He holds each stance for a few seconds, practicing a given swing a few times before switching to the next. Hello, Hulk. Pardon me for continuing my exercises. I feel that I have been letting them slip of late. Okay. You worried you're getting rusty? No, that's not quite it. Rather, I wish to learn to bring my enhanced strength and speed to bear. In order to do so, I must ensure that my blindness does not hinder me. Perfection is a journey, not a destination. Gaichu lifts his sword, offering its edge first towards you. Do you see that edge, forged by one of the finest swordsmiths in modern Japan? Diamond-coated edge, capable of cutting even most hardened ceramic armors. But what good is a sharpened edge without the precision to apply it? When I was still a man, I could have cut a single pea in half with my eyes closed. Oddly, after becoming blind, I cannot replicate this feat. I think I soon will be able to perform this feat again. I simply have to train my body to ignore the senses that it no longer has and pay attention to the new ones. Now, what was it that you would like to discuss? Any thoughts about that last run? The entire cultural phenomenon of conventions, particularly those open to the public, eludes me. Why you brought me, I have no idea. I could tell you far more about gardening, drones, or even Gobet's dubious cooking than I could about decking. Even so, there was something fascinating about it, from an anthropological point of view. For instance, the spat between Isabel and Rhombus. Not only were they squabbling like fussy children, the entire squabble began because of unsolicited advice, and for this, Isabel killed his cat? I may devour human flesh, my friend, but even I am not that kind of monster. Deckers are strange people, and I am glad not to be one. Is there anything else? Has it been difficult to learn to fight while blind? It is not the easiest thing I have attempted, but neither it is the hardest. Emptiness is form is one of the great lessons of the Hagakure. Train sufficiently and both swordsmanship and obedience will come instinctively. That is the closest to perfection a man can attain. I don't put a whole lot of stock in being obedient. A lawless Shadowrunner. Have problems with authority? My goodness. I never would have guessed such a thing to be the case. When I was new to the unit, I thought that to be a good samurai was the ultimate goal, that to serve justly with dedication was the greatest honor a warrior could have. We were all young and foolish once, I suppose. There's probably a place for that kind of obedience somewhere. So what changed your mind? Beyond my disease, there was a fight in Fukuoka. My former team ambushed me. It had a singular effect on my worldview. We were taught that we were superior to everyone, that since we were pure humans and Japanese, we would always win. I believe that most never questioned the validity of this claim, and when confronted with direct evidence to the contrary. Tell me about when your old unit ambushed you. Very well. My time in Fukuoka was tense. Since leaving Keinanshin, I had been careful to stay out of sight by moving on foot and the back of automated delivery vans. I was running out of food, however, and needed to be in a city for that. Fukuoka is just big enough to get lost in it, but not so large that a ghoul sighting could go unnoticed. I hid in abandoned buildings and storm drainage systems, and for 2 weeks I managed to stay hidden. The strain of having constantly moved was wearing on me, however. I made a mistake. What happened? I had to get out of Japan. but all my contacts in Fukuoka had come up empty-handed, even when I asked for a way to China. I was running low on money, and I could feel the team catching up with me. A contact of mine in Kumamoto owed me a favor, and arranged a passage for me if I could reach the city in 48 hours. If I had taken my time, I could have made it to Kumamoto without incident, but I let conscience sleep when I got his email. I thought that if I disguised myself, I could take the train there, get out before my unit got any closer to finding me. I still don't know how they found me. Magical tracking, perhaps? Or simply a well-developed spy network. Regardless, they found me. They were waiting for me at Hakata station. It was an ambush. That's a very public place for an ambush. It is. I suspect their orders were clear, however. Do whatever it takes to kill me. Civilians, expendable. For units like the Red Samurai, ordinary laws do not apply. The mission's success is the only concern. I had taken steps to disguise myself the best I could, relying on the sheer number of people to conceal my presence. I suspected that the team might attack while I was in public, but I did not realize just how expendable the civilians were. When they blew the C4 charges over the station's western entrance just to box me in, I realized how much I had underestimated them. I assumed that the train had derailed, honestly, but then I smelled the telltale acrid vapor of the explosives. Once you smell it, you never forget. The plastic explosive that we used has a particularly sharp odor, like old cheese, something to do with an olfactory tagant added to help track it if it's stolen. I remember stumbling through the dust and debris, trying to find my way to the rail platforms. They attacked from all sides, using the confusion to strike at once. I could hear Ishida and Takagawa behind me. Aomori and Sasaki charged out of an access corridor just ahead of where I had been standing. Sasaki threw a firewall down behind me, cutting off retreat while Aomori started firing. Sounds like you didn't have much choice but to defend yourself. Yes, that is so. Training took over. I knew that I had to survive, and was not thinking about anything but survival, so I charged Sasaki and Aomori. They were only 15 meters away from me. The only advantage I had was that they were blinded. They were as blinded by the dust as I was, but I could still hear and smell them. Sasaki threw a lightning bolt at me, but I managed to roll under it. As I came up, Aomori's light machine gun was swiveling down. I felt time stretch out as I stared down the barrel. I caught Aomori in the throat with the tip of my sword. It was a maneuver I'd practiced hundreds of times before. There was no resistance as I cut through his trachea, and he fell as I rolled to the side. I could hear him choking for breath as he dropped. It is strange to think how clear this memory is, even now. He was your friend. That kind of thing will stick with you. When the adrenaline is pumping, you form memories with more clarity. Certainly, that is true, but I remember that strike so clearly for an entirely different reason. It was in that strike that I realized who I truly was. What did it mean that I, an infected monster that was less than a beast, would still defeat the finest soldiers in the world? Red Samurai doctrine taught Aomori and the others not to fear me, and this overconfidence would be their death. I realized I had progressed beyond their ability to understand. My sword was as accurate as ever, where they could not account for it due to ideological blindness. That's the danger of letting ideology overrule facts. Precisely. All those years I was worried I was not good enough to be a member of the Red Samurai, that somehow they had been pulling my weight. But I had been blind to all the ways in which we were not training, or had avoided the harsh truth of our own abilities. We were so often told that our own excellence that I wondered if we had ever truly been tested. Sasaki was the next to fall. As I turned away from Aomori, I realized she must have seen me strike him. Her eyes were wide, and I could feel her fear and anger as she tried to summon another spell. She seemed caught between healing Aomori and attacking me. I was there, on Sasaki, a downward stroke from Jodan's stance. She had hesitated just as Aomori had. I felt the breath go out of her, like someone had deflated a tire. She just slid down into a pile. I think she was trying to ask me how, when I ran. And what about Ishida and Takagawa? My goal was survival, not victory. Takagawa was too far away, and I did not see Ishida. I only smelled him, so I ran. The trains had been shut down due to the explosion. But as long as I could get out of Hakata station, I knew I could escape. They did not follow me into the city proper. From what I heard via the Matrix, the event was reported as a terrorist attack that was thwarted by the brave Renraku soldiers. Brave, foolish soldiers. If you killed 2 of them, why are they still hunting you? Gaichu does not answer immediately. He seems uneasy with the question, fidgeting with his fingers. I am unsure why that would make a difference. Can you explain what are you driving at? The unit's down 3 members. Why not give up upon you? Ah, I see. I think your mistake is in seeing this from a practical perspective. The problem is emotional, not mechanical. The nature of the Red Samurai assignments is such that losses are generally 0, or the entire team. In those rare cases when Red Samurai teams suffer partial losses, the remnants of the impacted teams are shuffled together and undergo training. Sasaki and Aomori will undoubtedly be replaced. The problem is that I cannot be replaced. Simply put, I am not dead. Ordinarily, a missing Red Samurai would be considered dead for purposes of reorganizing teams, but Renraku knows precisely what has happened to me. What's more, my failure to do my duty reflects badly on the unit. Others will undoubtedly resist joining my former squad, as it has been tainted. That's a strange way to organize a military unit. I can see how it might seem that way from the outside. Part of what makes the Red Samurai fearsome is that they do not believe they can lose. Establishing a strong esprit de corps through this kind of unusual organization is part of the mystique. They have hunted me in Japan, Shanghai and Beijing, and now I am certain they hunt me here in Hong Kong. The cycle will continue endlessly for the foreseeable future. Okay. Wouldn't it be easier if you faced them down rather than run? How do you mean? I have faced them several times in the past, in Fukuoka and in Shanghai. Unless you have a deeper meaning I am unaware of, I have already done as you suggest. You're capable of striking back at them. Why aren't more of them dead? Gaichu's expression darkens as he folds his arms over his chest. You think our battles have not been in earnest? You believe that I should have been more efficient in defending myself? If you're as good as you claim, you should have been able to finish this by now. You define yourself by your opposition to your old life. I think sentimentality has left you unable to finish them off. Okay? You define yourself by your opposition to your old life. What? Blinking a few times, Gaichu leans closer to you. I am unsure that I clearly understand your meaning. Can you explain yourself more clearly? Think about it. You get to live as the Ronin Red Samurai, unfairly cast out by his unit. Ah, and you believe that absent that opposition, I would have little to define myself. That is very cheap philosophy, Hulk, and unworthy of you. Prove me wrong. Who are you without your unit? Valid question. Drawing himself up and puffing out his chest, Gaichu glares at you. You tell me, what do you see? I am the creature that stands in front of you. What is it that I am, in your opinion? That's a cop-out answer and you know it. A free man who can choose to live as he pleases. A Shadowrunner, just like the rest of us. Well, it is a cop-out answer. And your insistence upon labels is a weakness. Why must you have a name? Why must you name a thing in order to understand it? You claim I am nothing without my unit, yet you cannot answer a simple question. I am, I exist. That is the truth and some total of meaning in it. There exists no objective external force to impose meaning and value upon our lives. How I chose to survive is a facet of my life. I seek to perfect myself, my skills, and my abilities in combat. Perhaps that is not the path I would have walked down when I was younger, but I would have been a soldier for so long as I cannot imagine devoting myself to any other shade. This does not mean I am tied inextricably to my unit. It simply means I am shaped by my history. I appreciate your concern about my history and my unit, but I assure you, I am doing alright. I must learn to adapt to my new condition and lifestyle on my own. The time will come when they find me in Hong Kong. So what will you do about your unit when they come looking for you in Hong Kong? I am unsure. You have given me a great deal to consider, and I do not mean that lightly. There are several actions and possible outcomes I foresee. I could, as I have before, relocate to another city, flee Hong Kong, travel somewhere further afield, Lagos perhaps, or Montreal. It would have to be someplace where Renraku's influence was minimal, and where the unit's presence would be immediately noticeable. This has been my plan of action in the past. I could also keep a low profile staying here, hope that they are unable to find precisely where I am hiding. Undoubtedly, Ishida would command the team to keep looking. I believe it would only be a matter of time before they found me. But if it were a sufficiently long time, they might be recalled. I could also confront them, draw them out into the open, at a time and place of my choosing. They are nothing if not predictable in their efforts to follow the Red Samurai operational doctrine. That plan could succeed, but it could also put you and civilians at risk. Okay? You need to find a way to fight them. I am unsure if this is the wisest course of action. I am going to need to think about this a great deal. Please, let me think on this. I will have an answer later. Alright then. So that was a pretty long conversation. We're going to finish this part here and continue in next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.